Hey there, stewards. So I want to talk about how to say no when someone asks you to do something, but to do it in a God-honoring, gracious way. So I'm a bit of a people pleaser. I like people to like me, and that sometimes leads to problems because it means that often I will say yes when people ask me to do something, even though I probably shouldn't because I don't have time or it's not a priority for me. If you are a people pleaser like me, the problem is when someone asks you to do something, it's always easier just to say yes. They're happy, they're excited, they like you because you said yes to the thing that they wanted help with. But most of the time, that thing that you've said yes to is a commitment, something, some obligation. Oh, you're going to go do coffee with this person, or you're going to, help out with some ministry at the church, or help somebody move, whatever it is. It's usually future. And so you say yes right then, and it's like you've written a check, but future you has to cash it. And you just kind of cross your fingers that maybe you'll have enough time to do it when the time comes. And that's when the problems start. Because here's a harsh truth that I really have learned the hard way. Saying yes to someone else's priorities very often means saying no to God's priorities for you. Each of us has a calling from God. We have responsibilities He's given us, things that we are charged with stewarding well. And often it is the case that we can be servants to others. We can help people with things. That's very good. That's godly. That's a great way to love your neighbor. But if saying yes to someone else's priority ends up conflicting with the things God has called you to do, that is not a good thing for you to say yes to. Our time is limited. And so if you're going to make an impact with your life, you're probably going to have to disappoint a few people along the way. So here's just 3 rules I've come up with for saying no to people in a gracious and God-honoring way. Rule number 1, be kind, but be honest. Sometimes I'll say yes to something, and then I'll actually get mad at the person who asked me to do it, even though I'm the one who said yes. As the thing I committed to doing draws closer, I'll start blaming the person who asked me for things like not respecting my time or making me feel overwhelmed, or I'll even blame them when I run out of time and don't actually finish the thing I committed to doing. And I'm like, well, I had too much on my plate. They should have never asked me. But I was the one who said yes. And here's the thing. There's nothing nice about saying yes to something that you can't actually get done. So that's why rule number 1 is be kind, but be honest. Tell them no. Just do it nicely. If you don't have time to do something or it's not a priority, just say something like this. This sounds like a great opportunity, but I just have too much going on right now to give it the attention that it deserves. It doesn't have to be complicated, and people understand, and they'll be grateful that you just gave them a straight answer. And that brings us to rule number 2. Don't say maybe when you mean no. I think it's Jack Johnson who has that song, "Seems to me that maybe," pretty much just means no, something like that. I don't know the music. Look it up. But don't say maybe when you mean no. Sometimes I think to save face, instead of just saying yes or just saying no, we'll say, yeah, no, let me think about it. Even though you know in the back of your mind that you really just mean no. But it makes me think of Jesus' words in Matthew 5:37 when he said, "Let your yes simply be yes or no. Anything more than this comes from evil." And now in the context, he's talking about swearing or making oaths. But the principle still applies. There is a simplicity and an integrity with just giving a straight answer, not trying to adorn it with saying "on my mother's grave," but also not trying to fudge and say, well, maybe I'll do it when you really know you're not going to. Just be honest, just be upfront. Don't say maybe when you really mean no. Because listen, you're doing the person who's asking you for this thing a favor by being forthright. Because when you're straight up and you just tell them no, then they can move on and find somebody else to do it. But when you say maybe, you kind of leave them in this limbo where they're like, are they going to do it? Are they not? If you know you're not going to, just say no so that they can move on, and so can you. And finally, that brings us to rule number 3, make no your default answer. When I was in high school, I made videos for fun, which I guess I'm still doing now, but back then, not a lot of people did video editing or knew how or had the equipment to do it. And so a lot of times my classmates would say, hey, we're doing a video project. Do you want to help us do it? And I would say, yes. Or someone at church would say, hey, can you help us do a video for the church? I'd say, yes. Someone would say, I'm at a wedding. Can you help us do a video for that? Yes. And I ended up getting just incredibly burnt out and overwhelmed from all these things I'd said yes to, and ended up never having enough time to do it all well. And so then people were more disappointed. People would be mad at me. And I just felt like I was drowning. The problem was that yes was my default answer. But I've since made the switch to having no be my default answer, which can feel kind of weird. It feels weird, especially for a people pleaser, to be like, no, 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 when someone asks you to do something. But I'll tell you what, it forces you to clarify your priorities. The Apostle Paul writes in 2 Corinthians 9:7, each one must give as he has decided in his heart, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver. And now he's talking there about giving money, but I think that the principle applies to our time as well. I want to be a cheerful giver of my time. When I say yes to something, I want it to be because I really do want to serve this person. I'm not doing it because I feel guilty or feel compelled, or I feel like I'm going to disappoint them if I say no. You are a steward of the time that God has entrusted to you. You're the one who's been charged to make the best return on it. You need to make sure your priorities are clear so that you can say yes to the things that are part of your calling and no to the things that are a distraction from that. That's not selfish, that's being faithful. And one of the things I've learned as a people pleaser is that people aren't as disappointed when you say no as they are when you say yes and aren't able to follow through. So now when I get an unexpected request, I will say something like this. Hey, my schedule's pretty full. I don't know if I can commit to that right now, but I will let you know if anything changes. See, that wasn't a yes, and it wasn't even a maybe. It was a no. But I left myself the option to come back to them if I change my mind on it. That's making no your default answer. And what it does is it buys you the time and the ability to get out from under the pressure of having the person asking you right then and there to really reflect on, is this something I should commit to? Do I have time for it? Is it in line with the priorities that God has given me? And if it is, you can come back and say, you know what? I thought it over. I think I can do that. And if not, you've already closed the door and told them no. It is always better to come back with a yes when you first said no than a no when you first said yes. So those are just 3 simple rules that have helped me say no in a gracious and godly way, so that I can maintain the priorities God has given me and not get distracted. Be kind, but be honest. Don't say maybe when you really mean no, and make no your default answer. At the end of the day, you're going to have major problems of overcommitment in your life if you're constantly saying yes to everything, and you will not have time for the calling that God has given you. And if you want more help with this, I actually teach a course on overcoming overcommitment that's made for Christians. And you can learn more about that in the description if you're interested. I hope that was helpful. I will see you in the next video.